Okay, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about Excel and how it can be useful for teachers or for anyone really. So first off, let's think about Excel and its primary uses or its primary values. What makes it useful are these things called cells, A2, A3, etc. Cells have three components and three characteristics. Cells can have formulas, which allow value manipulation. So you can input a formula to sum a certain number of cells, and that makes Excel useful for manipulating data. So cells have formulas, they have values, they have the information itself, so they have numbers, they can have text, and then they also have formatting. So they have what the actual data will look like in the cell. All of these things are useful to keep in mind because we can use each of these three components to work for us and to make our lives easier. It can help us be more productive when we're working in Excel. So let's go right to it. We'll go right to the demo and kind of see what this is all about. Okay, so I have a sheet here with the names of my students, first name, last name. My students are the first couple presidents. So I'm going to go here and I want to give them all student IDs. So the simplest way to do this would be to enter. So we'll give them the first two, and then I'm going to highlight, or I'm going to mouse over until I get that black cross and double click, and then it'll just automatically fill it down. That's called riding the range. So if I want to format this data a little bit more nicely, I'll go here, I'll highlight all the columns, and I can double click when I get that black bar with two arrows coming out of it, and it will, well, here. First, I can resize all three columns however I choose, and they'll all be equal just by highlighting all three columns up here and then dragging across. But that's, I don't need that much space. I can just double click here, and then they just get the amount of space that they need. So I'm going to add some more data here. We'll do tuition, and we'll do final grades. And again, if I want to resize these to here, I can highlight, double click, and it'll make them large enough to see. So if I want to make, give these guys some tuition numbers, I'm going to go in, I'll say, okay, the first one is 500, and then let's make the next couple ones, we'll have it increase by a certain amount for each one. So each one should start around, we'll start with the first one, so we'll start with E4, and then we'll add probably around 15% each cell we go up. We want to add the previous one plus 15%. So now if I double click that, it'll automatically fill down just like that, riding the range. And now I can go over here and format these. I have to make it bigger. I can format these to a certain number of decimal places. I have to select just the numbers to a certain number of decimal places like so, and then I can make it a currency instead of just a regular number. And now I'm going to add final grades. We'll say some of these guys, they did alright, not too bad. They got 80, so I'm going to drag that down around halfway, and then the rest of them got 90s. So I deleted the values for the final grades I had entered before, and I want to show you something by right-clicking on the lower, by that box in the lower right-hand corner. I can drag down and I can create a series just like so. I'm going to make it a linear series, and I want to have it increase by 1.5, and I want it to stop at 100. So this is an easier way to enter a whole set of values. Oh, I'll put in 100 there because it was only allowed to increase each one by 1.5. So it's an easy way to input a lot of values quickly. You can see in the formula bar at the top, it puts in values. It's not just a formula. When we look over here, we can see the formulas for tuition. If I want to go and filter at that or sort it, you'll see a common problem that we encounter when we're using formulas. So I put the filters on. You can see the filters by the little box that I just clicked on right there. And I want to sort it, well, I don't want to sort it ascending. I want to sort it descending because that'll be a good see. So Excel threw an error there for all of them because it's based on the first value, which used to be at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. So now we get all our values back. And what I want to do to fix that is I want to highlight that column or those cells, and I want to copy their content. So I'm gonna whoops, don't want to do that. I'm gonna copy their contents, dragging down, and then going up to copy. So I'll copy them, and then I want to go to paste. I'll hit the little downward pointing triangle next to paste and hit paste values. So now if I go to the formula bar at the top, I can see, I can see that the values in there's no longer any formulas in these cells. It's all values. So if I were to go and arrange this in ascending order or descending order, it would rearrange correctly and I wouldn't get any of those errors. I'm going to put it back to the way it was before because I want to change the formula. I want to show you one more thing, one more useful tool in Excel. If I go up to the formula bar up here, instead of having it change, having the 15% change, I want it to stay fixed on that first cell, on that first 500. I want to keep it fixed on E4. So to do that, I'm going to add anchors, which is something I'm sure all of you have seen before, but it probably don't know what they're called. They're the little dollar signs, right, like that. So I just did Command T or Control T on Windows, and I can toggle through how I want to keep it fixed. I want to keep it fixed exactly on that cell, so I want the dollar signs on both in front of the E and the 4. So I'm just going to drag that down, and you can see the values changed right there like that. I'll drag that down, double click on the box, and it'll ride the range to drag it down. And you can see that the values have all changed. Very simple, very quick way to get it done. So in that demo we learned a little bit about riding the range. We saw riding the range with that double click on the little box in the lower right hand corner. We saw copy paste values, which was useful when we were using filters to rearrange our data, to order our data in certain ways. Paste values allows the data to be more flexible because the formulas don't get in the way, essentially. We saw anchors, which are useful for using a certain cell and keeping a certain cell fixed. And we saw a lot of different uses of control. So control or command, the control or command key. And really, when it comes to saving time with Excel, it's all about the control or the command key. There's a lot of functionality with it, and it saves you time because there's no moving the mouse around looking for buttons that you thought were there but end up not really being there. So that's what makes control so useful. We know where everything is on the keyboard, so that makes control very easy and very useful. I think it's something that people have to get used to most of the time, but once they do get used to it, they find it saves a lot of time. Here are a sample of some control keys that are very commonly used. We saw in the demo Control Enter to fill down. We saw Control T for moving the anchors around. Control A selects all. Control D pulls down from above. So if I'm in a cell and I want to copy the value that is directly above the cell, I can do Control D and pull that value down from above. And then Command K or Control K is a hyperlink, which I'm sure all of you have heard of before. Here's a list of some of the other common keyboard shortcuts that I've found useful when I'm using Excel. I know on the handout I included a few more, so you can definitely take a look at that. And there's plenty of resources online that are helpful for learning, for finding controller command key shortcuts, because if you're using them a lot, they can be very helpful and very useful for saving time. And there are over 222 of these keyboard shortcuts in the resource that I included in the handout. There are listed 222 of these shortcuts. So there's bound to be some, you don't need to know all 222, but there are bound to be some that can save you some time when you're using Excel throughout the day. So next I want to talk about index match versus VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is something you might have heard of before. It's used to find a certain value, text, whatever in Excel, and it's a very common way to search for things. There's a better way to do it and a more legible way to do it, and I'm going to explain it here. So we can see the two functions in index match. Index indicates the column being searched, the value that we want to return, and match shows us how it's doing it. So we can see it's searching for the number 5 in this purple column right here. So it's searching for the number 5 in that column right there. When it finds that number 5, it is going to slide over to the blue column and say, oh, the state is Washington. And from that, it will, using that index, the number 5, it will match the state that we're looking for in this case. It can be confusing at first, especially if you've used VLOOKUP before, but index is what we want to find and match is how we find the corresponding cell. So since I'm running short on time here, I already typed in the formula, and you can see here it's not working right now, but I have everything set up. So in index, these are the cells I'm searching. This is what I want to be returned from this formula in the top. And I'm matching it with the red cell here. Whatever I type in the red cell should correspond to the array of the purple cells right here. And if I want to find the last name of the student who has ID number 7, I can just type that in. So I can type in whatever I like here, 9, and it shows up as Harrison, which is correct. That's the last name I'm looking for. I can do 12. There's a whole bunch of different values I can put in. And you can see it's searching for that 12 right there. I can do this for any of these values here. I can do it for the tuition dollars. I can search by student ID for tuition value dollars, excuse me. Obviously it's not formatted as money. But I can do this for any one of those columns in my table right now. And it works really well. It works very quickly. It would work even better if we had a long list of student IDs that we needed to search. So again, it is matching the red, what I type in that red box, with a student ID in that purple column, and then finding the corresponding value in that C column and returning that corresponding value. Finally, we have tables. Tables make it easy to manipulate our data, to work with our data, and to enter new information. Let's go to a demo. So finally, if I want to create a table, I can go in very simply and create a table by going Control A, just Control A of my little set of data right here. I can insert table, and then it shows me, okay, where is the data? I have all the data selected, so that's exactly what I want. And now I have this nicely formatted, very legible, easy to read table. And there's some functionality built into the table that makes it easy to enter new data. If I go down here and I have this little, I'm in this last cell right there, I can go in and I can hit tab, and I get a brand new line, and it automatically fills in the tuition that they would owe based on the formula that I entered before. And it makes it very easy to enter the 16th president, and I can calculate final grades. And tables automatically include the the filters at the top, which makes it very easy to reorder them and organize the data in a way that makes, that's fine. Organize the data and makes it easy to understand and very legible. So now I have them in alphabetical order. I can undo that if I want to and just go back like that. So that's tables. So that was tables. I included all my sources in the handout. I found the one YouTube video, Joel Spolsky, who was an Excel expert, very useful. I appreciate everyone watching. And I'm looking forward to the feedback that everyone has. Definitely take a look at the handout. I found all that stuff very useful.